As a continuous way of sensitizing broadcasters in the entire southern part of Nigeria, the National Broadcasting Commission held a 2-day media parley with practitioners and licensees at the Airport Hotel Ikeja, Lagos. It was a convergence of broadcasters from South-South, Southeast and Southwest. The first day, 23rd of November 2021, was a summit tagged with erudite scholars in the industry presenting papers on the theme, conflict reporting and imperative of professionalism. After the preliminaries of guest recognition and the rendition of the national anthem, the Director General, Shehu Balarabe Ilela, delivered his welcome address while welcoming all, using the opportunity to further remind all of the functions of the NBC.
It is indeed for me a pleasure to welcome you all to this National Broadcast Summit. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the National Broadcasting Commission instituted this yearly Broadcast Content Development Summit to address critical issues of national importance. This is a direct response to the critical role of the media in delivering impactful contents. The effort contributes very meaningfully to a broad-based discourse on burning national issues, which our broadcast stations interrogate and further exploit through professional packaging of programs for the benefit of Nigerian citizens. The theme for this year's edition is conflict reporting and imperatives of professionalism.
That government is a continuum was evidence in the synergy between the former acting and the new Director General, with the interactive as Professor Idachaba, the immediate past acting Director General, presented a well-researched lecture on the role of media in resolving conflict in the society, while providing tips on the need for practitioners to search for news beyond the ordinary. Have a careful analysis. Create avenue for proper engagement on all actors in the conflict, and ensure you do not aggravate or incite the public with your reports. Be selective in filming and transmitting images in a bid not to increase the pain of victims as much as you avoid bias and prejudice. His presentation was very practical with the copious examples he gave, which qualified as an academic session for the broadcasters in attendance.
Conflict reporting and the imperatives of professionalism. For me, this is a very interesting topic, and I say it couldn't have come at a more auspicious time. I therefore thank you, NBC, industry, for finding me worthy to speak at this occasion. Now, no doubt, the subject of conflict in the Nigerian state is indeed a very topical one, and the questions to ask might be, why is Nigeria today as a country enmeshed in several levels of conflict? As I thought about this matter, a lot of reasons flashed through my mind. Is it due to the heterogeneity of Nigeria multidimensional, multicultural, different sociological underpinnings? And I said to myself, yes, some of the conflicts obviously are man-made. Some of them may have even been bequeathed to us by nature, like natural boundaries, cultural differences, history, tradition, governance. So all these actually create foundation, naturally or man-made, for a pre-existent condition for conflict. So as we do in the academia, we begin with definitions. What is conflict? Clash of interest. Anywhere there's a clash of interest, a clash of positions, there's conflict. Now, as I do my paper, I request you to consciously or subconsciously, deliberately, begin to place yourself within the larger Nigerian cultural context as a people of a country. And begin to assume that you are a member, a dramatis personnel of the conflagration of the levels of conflict that exist between the Nigerian space. Therefore, ask yourself what your position is, what it should be in relation to the position of other people within the Nigerian society. So, conflicts, differences naturally get to the level that they escalate. And we say sometimes conflict can be even positive. Like in sports, people compete, and at the end of the day, people are happy, they are entertained. But more often than not, conflict is usually very, very destructive. Now, a professor, Al-Fazul, notes that the definition of conflict including knowing opposing interests and processes of trying to stop opposing views. So usually, somebody has a view, another person opposes. It leads to disagreement or disordinance within the structure. Now, there are several reasons why conflicts emerge on the sociological level. Many of them quite interesting. Emotion. People have strong sentiments, and it's natural. And if you relate that to the Nigerian state, as I requested earlier, Nigeria is a highly emotive country, hugely sentimental on the basis of religion, faith, tribe, ethnicity, and other, little sociological divisions. So, emotional sentiments can be a basis for conflict. Principal question will be, how do you resolve conflict resolution, and that is key. So I will say in my paper that conflict is a social process that is exacerbated when individual members of a group take sides in a debate. Of course, we all know that. Now, but how do you mediate? How do you attempt to resolve? And some of the strategies are recommended by Foresight, who mentions 3 major mediation approaches. One is an inquisitorial procedure, where you go out, as the name implies, to try to inquire. There's a very popular one you call arbitration, where somebody tries to mediate between the two people and say, okay, you come, what do you say? Okay, you are right, now let's talk, and then we get to see how we can get through the problem.
On his part, in another scholarly presentation, Professor Sonny Ododo, the general manager of the National Theatre, on his presentation on conflicts, reporting, and the imperative of the professionalism, hinged more on the challenges in the industry, which he identified as being for all comers, with a high level of quackery, lack of adequate regulations amongst the guilds and bodies, lack of training and retraining amongst others. He concluded with a counsel for all to avoid hate speech, to prevent the Rwanda experience, and to be more analytical and not judgmental, with a rhetorical question: who regulates the regulators?
But conflict reporting and the media in Nigeria has some history, which I want us to be reminded of. The form of conflicts that we have could be interpersonal, intergroup, interorganizational. But whichever form, human beings are involved. And as long as we continue to live in clusters, because we are social animals, in so cohabiting, there will always arise differences in opinions, struggle for power and domination, cultural clash, and a feeling of inequalities stemming from the domination of one group or individual in a community.
To tap more from other veteran broadcasters in attendance, Lekon Ajia, Treasure Anikiade, and Tom Shonaya formed the panel of discussants. Another veteran, Matthew Okodoa, a one-time zonal director of NBC Lagos, moderated the plenary session where more insights were provided from varied viewpoints.
I want the journalists here to be rest assured that they have a friend here, because we know the difficulties you go through in trying to report. But when we look at crisis reporting or conflict reporting, this is the most challenging area for any journalist. Because it's not a question of just informing the public that this thing happened. He has to think of, how does my report affect the public? Are you telling the public to run? It's like a reporter seeing a lion on the streets. He said, oh, there's a lion on the street. If you don't take time, it will devour you. That one has created fear. The other one comes, oh, there's a lion on the street, but the government is taking care of it, but be careful, don't go out. That one has mitigated the effect of the presence of a lion on the street. So the journalist has to think of all these things before he puts his pen to paper. So it's not easy. Now, in discussing this program, we are going to first of all look at the environment in which the journalist operates. The Nigerian environment, how difficult it is.
For me, I feel the Nigerian government has a responsibility to protect journalists and broadcasters. The government must provide a favorable, conducive environment for journalists and broadcasters to carry out their duties.
It is the story of citizen journalists who are not media literate, and that of how media ownership affects the perception of a media organization. The fact that the attacks on the media organizations had to do more with the ownership of those organizations and their party affiliations on one hand. Whether we like it or not, we have fault lines that had to do with ethnicity, tribalism, and we also have fault lines along religion. So the issue of bias and prejudices for professionals are perpetually there, especially in a diverse country like Nigeria, multi-ethnic.
No, it's not the duty of the journalist to say Nigeria. It's our duties collectively. It is not the sole responsibility of the National Broadcasting Nigeria Commission to save Nigeria or to save government, because that is what I'm hearing. Save this government. Don't badmouth the government. Don't say government is not performing. Sir, if the government is not performing, journalists must say it. They must report the facts as they are, but they have a responsibility to reflect all sides of the story. We must hear from the victims of conflict as well as the perpetrators. I am very proud of the fact that some journalists actually interview Sheikh Abubakar Gumi, because we also need to hear from the bandits. DG, sir, one of the challenges you're going to face, believe me sincerely, if you take a quick vox pop of people who are in this room, you barely find up to 10 who have actually seen, not to talk of read, the National Broadcasting Code. How do you expect people who don't have any knowledge of the code that guides their profession to perform professionally? So you have a big challenge there. How do you popularize the National Broadcasting Code? It shouldn't be a secret document that the Minister of Information is keeping under his desk. Thank you.
The question and answer session naturally provided more avenue to clarify other gray areas from the speakers and panelists. It was indeed a conversation as everybody left fulfilled.
What do you say of LTP? We have talked about media ownership. Somebody has paid money and wants the news to cover it. How do you now ensure balance and thorough professional practice without tilting, without prejudice, without bias to somebody who has made payments? In the area of convergence, like when I was discussing with Prophet Achaba, we need to tell our stories, so we don't even have enough. So the more the merrier, depending on the need focus that you want to go.
A situation where you have staff of the media house who have not been paid for 9 months and still come to work, then you want to ask, what are they doing? The information that they are bringing in and that the station is using, what is the quality of that information? And then to what end? Who is paying for those services that are being rendered? And yet it is under the umbrella of that said media house.
The data I give all the time is that the Nigerian broadcast media especially is the one that is growing in leaps and bounds. You know, from 1992-93 when they deregulated till now, we have over 600 broadcast stations. In Lagos alone, we have about 40-something, and they are competing side by side. What more evidence do you have about a vibrant and free broadcast environment? If we were suffocating or censorship or restricting editorialization, of course, it wouldn't have been like that. So the opportunities are there. Broadcasting, apart from being a social service, is business. There are many sectors of the economy that business people have invested, and the people are not businessmen. A lot of people have built hospitals, but they leave it to the doctors to run. Right? A lot of people build schools, even illiterates, set up schools, and they bring it to the educated people to run. So there's nothing wrong with Raymond Okwesi bringing money from shipping to broadcasting, you know, or anybody in the other sector investing in broadcasting. We are supposed to celebrate them for showing confidence, right, in our own industry. But the problem is, the people they hand this industry over to, you have to do some introspection. You, your own colleagues that run them, how independent are they as professionals? How much professionalism do they show in terms of running those stations. You know, the people who own the stations definitely, when they set you up, because they know the power of the media, will want to influence. But it's left for the professional broadcaster to say, this is the norm. You can't do this, you can't do that. I don't know anybody who has resigned in Nigeria due to editorial pressure, either from government or private.
Sometimes, when you allow news to be commercialized or current affairs programs to be commercialized, there's a tendency that the bias of the person who paid for that program holds sway. So where lies our responsibility? Where is the free platform that we have given the people?
At the end of the summit, the following resolutions were made. 1. Journalists need to understand the nature and causes of conflict through careful analysis of conflict dynamics and efficiently educate all sides in order to bridge the gap and correct misconceptions of all parties involved. 2. The broadcaster should ensure that the coverage of crisis shall be aimed at the overall public interest, guidance, and safety, and should not tamper with facts that will aid in escalating the crisis. 3. Conflict is a phenomenon that reflects our existence as social beings. However, its resolution makes us appreciate our existence as a people. 4. Routine group interactions make conflict inevitable due to differences of opinions and disagreements among members. It is the responsibility of the media, therefore, to enlighten all conflicting groups toward adequate conclusions. 5. Conflict is a global phenomenon that also affects Nigeria and threatens her public existence as a nation. The media should therefore ensure proper management of conflict reporting by ensuring that all sides are equal prominence.
The Ames Media crew further interacted with organizers and the guests present.
There are crises everywhere, but how it is reported, how we handle the crisis is the factor to determine the outcome of the crisis. What we are actually expecting is for all those who are here to learn from the presentations given by these two professors or scholars, if you like, so that at the end we want to see changes in the way we report crisis in Nigeria. Last time NBC issued not a warning but an advice to media houses, but unfortunately it was misunderstood. The purpose or our aim is not to truncate democracy, is not to step on press freedom, but to sanitize the industry, to make sure that people report what they are supposed to report, and they report it by putting at the back of their mind national interest.
We should not be sensational about what we're reporting, because when you are professional and when you report fairly and when you give the facts, you're more respected.
My impression is that the NBC is keeping to their mandate. As a regulator, you don't just assume that those regulating knows all the rules. If they know the rules, they know the interpretations. This is what this summit is all about.
The key thing is public safety. Public safety is key and paramount. It's the primary responsibility of every citizen, every professional, to ensure a healthy nation. Now, if a story that is breaking is going to be of negative consequences, is going to lead to breakdown of law and order, is going to traumatize the citizenry, it is going to divide the people and escalate conflict, then the broadcasters will exercise restraint. And by restraint, we are not saying you are censored. I mean, you can tell the story, still tell the story and give the right information accurately in a way that is believable, without necessarily showing pictures that are gory, without necessarily allowing other levels of inaccuracies to be built into the story.
Yeah, it's going to make our job very easy in the sense that it's a sort of training to the journalists. It's a sort of training for the broadcasters, and it creates more awareness for us to be sensitive to the issues that we discuss on air.
Honestly, it's timely. I'm very impressed with the turnout, and of course the resource persons did justice to the papers they presented. I'm highly impressed. Well, like we always say, what they heard today is not new to anyone. It's just a constant reminder for everyone to improve on the job that we have been doing, because we are all colleagues in this industry. So it's a constant reminder for us to remain professional at all times.
The day two of the event was more of media parley and family meeting of stations owners, licensees, and information commissioners of states in the southern parts. It's held at the same venue of Airport Hotel on Wednesday, 24th November 2021. The secretary to the NBC delivered his welcome remarks with the opening remarks and welcome address by the DG NBC and representative of Lagos State Information Commissioner.
You are very much welcome to this auspicious meeting with the Honorable Commissioners of Information, Chief Executive Officers of Broadcasting Stations, and their general managers within the South, Southeast, and Southwest geopolitical zones of Nigeria, with the National Broadcasting Commission in the city of Lagos, one of the fertile cities of broadcasting in Nigeria.
I say with the utmost responsibility that it deserves. History tells us that in a democracy like ours, the media as the fourth estate of the realm wields immense influence in every society. The pen, microphone, camera, and other tools of expression by journalists have been used to swing opinions from one side to the other, creating social trends and perspectives among the populace. This means that professionals gathered here today determine the direction of society, because information is crucial in the growth of any nation.
He gave insight into the reason for the parley while encouraging the station owner to live up to the expectation of defraying the outstanding dues and levy cum license fee due to the commission.
We want to hear your own side of the story, and let us see how the commission can assist. Some of you feel that they are just sitting down in Abuja telling us to pay a lot of money. They don't know the situation the stations are facing now because of financial crisis that is almost everywhere in the country.
In response, the chief executive officers of stations present and honorable commissioners of information in attendance expressed their various challenges facing the industry.
In finding solutions to the challenges that do exist, we must first of all give rise to this forum. It means that it's imperative for all of us to look at what are those challenges, why the law has become unimplementable. Rather than looking at what the law says, for quite some time, this law of 2.5% of income have been in existence. It has always been a challenge, because I have always also had a opportunity of covering sections like this in the market. You do know, for instance, the Electoral Act. It has gone through several amendments, because once one comes up, and then it goes to the field, you come back, and then you go to implement it, you come back for the purpose of amendment. The NBC law, just like the Electoral Act, certain sections have become unimplementable. This forum that involves those who supervise and those who are in the field is in a better position to be able to look at those challenges that have been issued, makes it quite impossible to implement the rules, so that at the end of the day we have a better country.
You can do your bid either on accrual basis or cash basis. Now, if on revenue of 100 million that I declare, for instance, and I pay 2.5% to NBC, and the advertising agency is owing me 50 million naira, and at the end of the day, I couldn't collect the money, and I make provisions for it. Is NBC going to refund me 2.5% of 50 million?
Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, owned by the state government. I know what they are. So I think DG should help us look into that. and see how we can give them palliative. And we have to pay, but not on to die.
The code says 2.5% of annual income. If it is changed, fine. The code did not say on profit. We are just following what has been agreed. Our other friend there also reiterated that the income of stations are very low. You have a license fee for 5 years. You are operating without a license fee, which also means you are operating illegally. You don't want to pay license fees and you want to hold on to the license. What we are really saying today is that, please, these frequencies are available to you today because you are a licensee. If you don't have a license and you are operating, it means the Commission has given enough leeway. There are people in the last 3 years have not renewed their licenses and they are on air. Is it fair? We are saying that, in fact, the code requires that if you are going to renew your license, you should say so 6 months before your license expires.
Having x-rayed the issues from various points of view, it was concluded that the final resolution will be forwarded to all concerned via mail.
Everything that was discussed here, you will put it in a document and will send to your email.
The zonal director of NBC Lagos gave the vote of thanks.
I appreciate all of you for finding time to hold this family discussion. My DG called it a family meeting, and indeed it's a family meeting. We can see the atmosphere. Despite the issues of agreement and the issues of disagreement, somebody said we agree to disagree and disagree to agree. I'm sure that we have all disagreed and we have agreed. Thank you very much for coming.
Which was followed with the interaction of all concerned.
It's a two-way sympathy, you know. It's not that we only sympathize with them and then they don't sympathize with us. So we know the economic situation in the country. Even government is doing a lot to cushion the situation. So let them understand that NBC also has a lot of burden, has a lot of financial burden on its neck.
That's what we pray for. We pray that collectively as an industry we'll put up a front to government to see the need to kind of bail out the industry. It's an industry that employs hundreds of thousands of people. If it's allowed to go down, just imagine the impact it will have in the society. A whole lot of people will be back in the labor market. So we believe that it's imperative of government to look at that industry seriously and see how they can inject some funds to make the industry stand and grow.
Issue of license is something you must pay. If you don't pay, you don't have a license. It's not an issue of economy or this. They are not. If they want to pay, they can pay with time, something. But if you don't pay, you don't have a license.